All right, we have six basic beginner control tracks, and then now I have four new race elements tracks. So this is going to be still larger gates, and it's going to kind of teach you the basic terms and the maneuvers that are generally used in racing. There's four tracks up right now. There's probably going to be about 8 tracks total for these bits beginner race elements, and then there will be one final race that combines all the elements together. So overall, anywhere about 7 to 9 tracks roughly in the beginner race element series. So let's hop right in and take a look at the very first one, the Bits Beginner Race Elements 1, which are slaloms. Probably should have spell checked that, but looks good enough for me. So when we get in, as usual, load up, hit A to start the race. We're going to take off, and if you notice, there's arrows pointing, so you're going to basically just go side to side and then continue that pattern, and we're just going to do a loop. And if you notice too, the idea is to kind of be as tight to everything as possible. Because if I go wide, there's a lot of stick movement and you're wasting some time and efficiency. Ideally, you want to hug everything as tight as possible so that you can run a shorter line. So if we go back and actually take a look at that track race leaderboard there, so if you notice the first couple laps, I was relatively tight, and that was getting me about 8 second laps. Like mid to high 8 second laps. But the last one where I started going a little wider, it's about half a second slower just from that little bit of extra. So one of the big things I would suggest that you want to focus on when you're running slaloms is there's a rhythm to it, and you kind of need to figure out how much the stick movement is and when the timing it is to switch from side to side. I'm going to run it back one more time, and let me turn on the stick cams. There we go. Why do they look different? I don't know. Sorry that they look different. We're gonna just get this going. So pay attention again mainly to this right stick. And if you notice, it's just a little, there's timing and the motions are fairly small. For the most part, you're going to keep the throttle pin, very little yaw, and just a tiny bit of pitch on that right stick forward and back just to try to keep your elevation. As a reference point, I would suggest using kind of the bottom of the footing here. That's ideally where you kind of want to be. You don't really want to gain or lose any elevation on this track. So let's start it over. So we're going to start full throttle, pitch forward just a little bit, try to find that nice elevation. And we're going to go 1, 2, 3, keep everything tight. 1, 2, 3, keep it tight. 1, 2, 3, keep it tight. And again, 1, 2, 3, keep it tight. 1, 2, 3, and bring it on home. Cool. So that is track 1 on the Bits Beginner Race Elements and Slaloms. We're going to go ahead and change the track 2, which is going to be Bits Beginner Race Elements 2 Ladders. So before we start the track, what a ladder is. These are very, very large ladders, but a ladder essentially is kind of what it states. Like a ladder, you're going to climb up and down them, so you would start at the top and basically spiral your way down to the bottom without hitting anything, obviously. Or you start at the bottom and spiral your way up. So that in drone racing is called a ladder, where you can go from the bottom It would be 3 gates stacked on top of each other, or 2 gates and a flag. Ideally, when you're doing ladders, you're not really paying attention too much to the rest of the gate. You only want to pay attention to the legs of the gate that you're trying to go around. And if you want to practice, a good way to do this is to just take one of these ladders right now and pick any side you want, and then pick the top or the bottom to start. So if I pick the top and say we're going to go right, we can go right. The middle has the biggest drop. The bottom, you don't want to go too low in this case, because you're going to start going back up, and then know that that middle section is where you have the most elevation change. So if we start at the bottom, a lot of elevation change to the top, and then you don't want to go too much higher, but then drop it all the way back down and come back down, and we could roll back up and back down and just work on those fine little motions in the sticks to kind of help you keep going up and down. And then if you want, you can then figure eight to the other side, go in the other direction. Almost didn't come up enough. And then we're going to come back down. And that's the basics of ladders right there. Right? And it's small little adjustments to try to keep it so that you're just kind of coming all the way around. And remember, the middle section is the one on this, because of the size of the gates, you have the most elevation change. Right? Okay. So that's one way you can practice that. So now that we've kind of gotten that basic concept of ladders down, let's start the track, the race here on this track, and I'll show you what this track fully looks like. So on this track, we're going to launch, same start gate, but we're turning left to begin with, so it's left 1, 2, 3, and we're going to turn right, and we're going to come down 1, 2, 3, and then this guy is optional. You can go left or right. It's faster to go right, 2, 3 up, and then we're going to drop back down and do it again. So left, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to make a right to the top here. We're going to come down 1, 2, 3, and like I said, this one's optional. So this time I can go right, 2, 3, and then we have to come back down. That's why I was saying that right side's faster. 1, 2, 3, then right down, 1, 2, 3, and then this time we're going to go right, 1, 2, 3, and then through the finish. And just remember, on all those ladders, the middle section is where you're going to have to do the most elevation change. All right. Definitely practice that. And the reason I set this up too, with the travel distance in between, is that there's a line that you definitely want to work on when you're transitioning. A lot of times you'll come in fast and you have to make that sharp first turn or travel, and then you're going to have to make that sharp, again, first entry from fast to a slow maneuver. And that's why I gave you the little bit of run between it, so you can practice doing that. All right. Let's move on to number 3. So, number 3 is going to be split S's and Immelmans. Excuse me. And to explain what a split S and an Immelman is that you would usually have some kind of top gate and a bottom gate. So a split S would be when you're coming from the top of a gate and you're dropping down to a lower gate and coming out the same direction that you came from. Or an Immelman would be the opposite of that, where you go through the bottom gate and you come out the top gate in the direction that you came from. So once again, split S, if we're coming from these signs, the direction of these signs, we go through the top gate and then we come out the bottom back towards the signs. And an Immelman would be the same concept, except reverse, from the bottom gate through the top and coming out. So there's a couple ways that you can do this. And the way most people will start is they'll kind of come through, they'll yaw spin, and then regather themselves and then pitch forward through. I purposely made these gates very large so that you can kind of learn to do it the right way with a little more roll, because that will get you through these a little faster and actually give you authority. So if you stay pinned, you can roll and pitch back. So you come through and start rolling just before you get through it, and then try to, again, use the crosshair and aim yourself through the bottom. So for a split S, through the top, turn around and aim yourself out the bottom. For an Immelman, come in through the bottom, aim yourself out the top, and come through. And the way I have this whole track set up, if you notice, there's 3 sets of two gates. So this first one here, if you notice, there's a sign when we start. This is going to be the launch blocks over here. When you start, there's an arrow that goes up, and then past the gate, there's a down. So I want you to do a split S on this first one, and then there's an arrow that points to the right here. So when you come out the bottom, you want to kind of focus your way right, and then we're going to go up through this guy, and there's a down arrow, so we're going to come down through this, and then repeat this process again. So top, bottom, then bottom to top, and then top to bottom, and then back to that same start top gate. So let's start the race and show you what it looks like. And feel free to work on this. Feel free to be in this free fly mode and kind of practice those high to lows, lows to highs. And then once you're comfortable, start the race, try to put the time down, and use the times on these tracks as just a metric of how good you are, how much control you have over the drone. Because the more control you have, the lower your time's going to be. All right, so let's get this started. Full throttle, we're going to pitch, we're going to fly up to the top, we're going to come down to the bottom, and then bottom to top, and then top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom, sorry, bottom, top to bottom here, then another top to bottom, and then a bottom to top, and then a top to bottom, and finish. So if you notice too, the fastest way to kind of do a lot of this is not exactly, you're not going to come in straight and then straight out the bottom and then turn. If you notice, when I was doing this in the race, I was basically trying to make sure that when I came through, I was coming through the bottom at an angle. I purposely made the gates really big so that you can, first learn these basic controls of doing split S's and Immelmans. But then I also want you to kind of start learning how to use the entire gate, come in from the left side and exit that right side there, so that way you can kind of try to use your momentum as efficiently as possible. If that makes any sense. So, cool. Any questions, comments, concerns, please drop them in the comments. I'm pretty responsive, or feel free to reach out on any socials. I'll be happy to help. So that is split S and Immelmans. The next one is going to have some split S's and Immelman-esque items. So let's change the track to track 4, which is Bits Beginner Race Elements 4. It's single gate ladders and hang on, I don't remember the full name. Single gate ladders and shoelaces. There it goes. It's actually so big it doesn't even fit in the game. So the reason that, I'll explain the shoelace thing in a minute. But so this has a bunch of elements where the first element that we're going to see right here, if you see, it's a gate and it's got the pylon sticking out of it. So this is what we call a single gate with a flag ladder. And in this one, you go through the gate and then you come around that flag and you go over the gate. So that's where, instead of doing the other ladder with the 3, this has just one gate and a pole. So it's through the gate and then over the top. Through the gate, around the flag, over the gate. And this one has 2 gates with a single flag. And we're going to go through this first gate. We're going to turn right and gain a little bit of elevation and come around that flag. So again, kind of like a ladder. So it's bottom, bottom, top, top. All right, so that's this element. Then we're going to come into this is the shoelace. We're going to ladder up this, and then we're going to turn right and ladder down this side. And I'll show you in a second why that's kind of called a shoelace. There's a couple different variations on how to do that shoelace, but this is going to be one of the most popular ones to kind of avoid mid-airs. So it's, again, through the left side bottom. We're going to ladder up one, then ladder down one, and then that we're going to exit, follow these pylons, watch the light pole, and the last element is a big split S over the top. So on the right side of that flag, over the top of this gate, we're going to come back, and that's a split S through that top, over the top, split S through, and then we're going to ladder down one, and we're going to come back to the start. So I'm going to do a 3-lapper, and then I will show you why that element over there is called a shoelace. So full throttle, a little bit of pitch forward, and we're going to ladder up over the gate, and then we're going to come bottom, bottom, over the top, left, around, over the top, right, ladder down, then around the pylons, don't hit the light pole. We're going to split S the top, ladder down, and then start lap 2. Through the gate, around the pole, over the top. Bottom, bottom, top, top. We're going to go left, around, over, right, around, down. And then we're going to do the split S over the top here, over the top, through the top gate, and then we're going to ladder down, come in for lap 3. So through the gate, around the flag, over, bottom gate, over the gate, around and up, and around and down. Ooh, sorry. And remember, crashing is kind of part of drone racing. It's going to happen. Around the pylons, we're going to come over the top, ladder down, and back to the finish. So let me show you why that section is called a shoelace. What's nice is that in Velocidrone, there's a thing called a line analyzer. F2, there it is. And this basically kind of shows the most efficient line that you took. W to lock the quad. There you go. The reason it's called a shoelace is because the line that you fly kind of looks like the line you would use to, like a shoelace that's tied. So, there you go. That's why it's called a shoelace. It's kind of like a mixture of a figure 8 with different elevations. And there's many different ways to do that. So this is just one variation, but kind of wanted to show you that element because you will see that on tracks. Oh, and so this is basically a ladder up. Hang on. Let me navigate my way over there, right there. So this is basically a ladder up. If you look at the shape that that makes over there, where it's just kind of a sort of spiraling up motion, this is the same thing, and then same thing bottom, it's a spiraling up motion. Sometimes you'll hear people refer to this as like a cyclone, because you're just kind of doing a big circle around things. Yeah, that's really about everything there. So we have, let's go take a look at that split S while we have it too. Right here. Okay, so I did not take the most efficient line through here, but if you see coming over the top, and then it's through the higher gate, around that right leg, and you spiral down and out the bottom gate back to the start. And that is this entire track. Let me turn that off before I forget. And yeah, that's the next 4 tracks. So these are some of the very basic race elements that you will encounter. And any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to leave them in the comments, or reach out on any of the socials, or hop on my Discord. I do a lot of free coaching as well. So thanks for watching. Peace out.